study together, and we learn together, we work together, and we prosper together.
Hello all, I would like to welcome our international students joining us from around the globe for our Education USA interactive series, and a special welcome to our virtual guests from Beijing, China. Hello Beijing, how are you? I am Krishna Das from Education USA, a United States Department of State network of over 400 advising centers in 170 countries, where millions of international students each year find information about how to apply to accredited US colleges and universities. Visit our website at educationusa.state.gov to find a center near you. We are here today to provide you with information on the pre-departure orientation process. We will talk about what you should expect and be prepared for before you start your journey as a student in the United States. Please note that this information will provide a general overview of the departure process, but you will still need to follow the university or college's specific guidelines. To help us, we have Adina Lav, Director of Admissions from a local university. Hello, Adina.
Hi.
And Lihui Bai, a current undergraduate student from China. Hi, Lihui, welcome. Hi. By the way, I also came to the United States as an international student. To participate in this chat, please log into the live chat area or tweet us questions with the hashtag Study in the USA. We have some special guests in the live chat area, including Patrick Wang, another international student, also from China, who will be answering as many questions of yours as possible throughout this hour. Let's start off the discussion by going to our viewing party in Beijing, China. Hi there, Beijing. What is your first question for us?
Come this way.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. Good.
There we go.
Okay. The students are keen to know the secrets of academic success at U.S. college and universities. Can you please share some tips?
Thank you for that question. I think the question was, the students are interested to know what is the sort of the secrets for academic success. Are there any tips or recommendations that one has or one should start thinking about? Lihui, you are a current international student.
Yeah.
I think you should be well poised to answer this particular question.
Yeah, I would say there are no really secrets for academic success, but definitely hard work. And I would suggest go to professor's office hours if you have questions, because they're there to help you. So I think that's a good way to be successful in US academically. Yeah.
And have you sort of had any experiences where you have gone to visit a professor, and have they been pretty helpful?
Yeah, so this semester I'm taking a class called Intro to American Literature, which is an American literature class. Since English is not my first language, sometimes I do not fully understand what's like the lecture's about. So I will always go to my professor's office hours and then just ask her for clarifications. And then she will be really helpful, and then she's really glad that I asked those questions, because she's like, oh, I wouldn't have known that you don't know those questions. So after her clarifications, I can write my papers better. So like it's just a really helpful process.
Excellent. Adina, as an administrator, do you have any suggestions?
I think just being prepared to work really hard. I think it's a different educational system. Everything tends to be group-based, a lot of group work. So I think you need to be prepared to work with other students in that way as well.
So the bottom line is study hard.
Yeah.
All right, there you have your answer, Beijing. Do you have another question for us?
But thank you for your answers.
Yes, we do. Question number 2.
你好，我关心的是现在在校园内和校园外住宿的一些安全注意事项，谢谢。
Her question was, could you please provide some safety tips for both on and off campus?
Thank you for that wonderful question. I think this is a very pertinent question which not just students have, but I'm sure their parents have. Because, for example, if I have a child going to a foreign country or even traveling, say 10 miles away, I'm always concerned about their safety and security. Adina, as an administrator and working with international students and with the university, what are your thoughts on this?
I think as far as campus safety goes, any campus is going to have a campus police department. And so their job is to ensure safety on the campus. I think just being smart, situational awareness, knowing what's going on around you is really important. Traveling in groups, so if you're at the library studying late, don't walk back to your dorm by yourself. Go with your friends. Those types of things.
And Lihui, you have been on campus.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about
I totally agree with what Adina just said. Like normally, I would if I'm studying library late, I would just go home with a friend or have my friend ready to pick me up. And then just campus is safe in the sense that there will be campus emergency lights and all that security measurement. But just if you go outside late, just try not to go anywhere by yourself. Try go in groups and everything.
So basically, just have the situational awareness, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Well, there you have your answer, Beijing. Beijing, we will come back to you later in the program, but for now, let's get to your online questions. To start off the discussion, the first question from one of our online viewers is, can you tell us a little bit about working on campus, internships, and jobs after graduation? Adina, why don't you start off, and then Lihui, you can chime in as to whether you've been working on campus and campus jobs, etc.
Yeah, sure. Every campus is going to have a career services office, and that career services office is going to start preparing students for internships, for off-campus internships. I'm going to let you talk about on-campus.
Okay.
But off-campus internships, internships off-campus have to be related to your field of study. So you'll work with your career services office on campus, and they'll ensure that the work that you're going to be doing off-campus would be approved and related to your field of study.
Okay. Lihui, have you had the opportunity to work on campus or sort of do some internship programs?
Oh yeah, so I've had 3 jobs, just on-campus jobs, and then what I do is just my professor provides me a teaching job, so it's just I'll take it, and then since it's on campus, we'll have more freedom compared to off-campus jobs. So then you'll also go to career center, they'll have the paperwork ready for you, and then just sign up all the paperwork, and then you can just work on campus, and then it's pretty convenient, and then you get payment, and it's a learning experience too. So I really like it.
Oh, great, that's good to know. Let's go on to our next question. Online viewer asks, how can international students make the most of their time outside of the classroom, and why is this so important? I think this is such a great question. Adina, why don't we start with you? Why should a student who's studying, why should he or she go outside, and sort of develop all these contacts, networks, etc., outside the classroom?
Part of the reason that you're coming to study is to study, and that's really important. But the other part is sort of this holistic experience that you're going to have. Building your network is critical. It's how you're going to get jobs in the future. And so it's not just a means to an end, though. Part of the educational experience is travel, is seeing the city, is just having a good time while you're here.
Lihui, what do you think?
Yeah, I just feel on top of that, just to be more practical, on campus, you can join different organizations, and then there are many internships and jobs. Those are great opportunities for you to get more involved on campus, because studying is definitely our number 1 priority. But then other than that, I want to join different groups, meet new people, so I will have fun here in the U.S.
So I think the bottom line is that all these experiences make you into what is called a well-rounded individual, and that's the whole sort of learning experience of being in the United States.
Yeah.
correct? Let's go to our next question. Ahmed, who's one of our online viewers, asks, he's about to start studying at a university in Virginia soon. What documents does he need to bring with him to the United States when he gets here? Adina, why don't you start off, and
Sure.
then you can chime in. What the kind of documents that you were able to bring in and you required? I guess that'll again depend on the university and etc.
Definitely, you need a passport and your I-20 or your DS 2019, depending on how you're coming in.
Right.
The other thing, as an admissions officer, is you need to make sure that you're bringing your final official transcript with you. So most of you applied before you graduated from high school or from college. So you need to bring that final transcript with you so that we can clear you.
Lihui, what kind of documents were you able to? I mean, did you have to bring?
Yeah, okay, so for me, I have to bring definitely my passport and I-20. Those two are most important documents when you enter US. And they also asked me to bring some kind of certificates of all the vaccines I've had and then the health certificates. And I don't know that's for every school, but at least for GW, I have to bring those documents too.
And that's important. It's good to have all those documents. But it's also, Adina, do you think it's good for the student to check with his or her school, with their foreign service advisor, foreign student advisor, on what is required?
Yeah.
Maybe through email or through a telephone call.
Yeah,
etc.
every school will have a sort of an international services office, and their job is to help you all prepare to come into the country, and they should give you a checklist of all the things that you need to bring with you.
Okay, so that's good to know. Let's go to our next question. A viewer asks, what is pre-departure orientation and how do I attend? Now, this is going back to the basics. What is that's why we're here. What is pre-departure orientation, Adina?
It's basically information given to the students so that they know what they need to do before they get to campus.
Okay.
And then, of course, when they get to campus, there's an orientation when they get to campus.
So it starts before they leave their home country.
Correct.
And that can be through your telephone calls or emails and all the documents that you have, by which you can sort of connect with the university and they tell you, okay, this is what you need to bring, this is what you need to do, etc.
Correct.
Lihui, when you started your journey to the United States, what kind of guidance did you have in terms of pre-departure? I mean, what did you talk to peers, friends, other alumni?
Yeah.
Did you connect with the university? So if you can give us, some sort of a background of what your experience was, I think that'll be really helpful.
Yeah, so I have some family friends that go to GW before I came here.
Okay.
So I contact her about different specific things I need to ask for. But then school has also been emailing emails over the summer. So I would say definitely check your school emails over the summer because the school official will contact you. And then also I know for GW there's also summer standoffs in different cities in China. So Beijing, Shenzhen, and all the major cities Shanghai, all the major cities in China. Since I do not live in those major cities, I didn't go. But I feel like if you have the opportunities to go to those major cities and attend your school standoff during the summer, then they will provide information for you to know as well.
Excellent. And also you can go to our Education USA Advising Center in your home country at a center near you. And for that, to find a center near you, you can go to www.educationusa.state.gov. The advisors there are a great wealth of information. So go talk to them, talk to an advisor, and because many of them have been here before and they've had experience living and studying in the United States. Let's go to our next question. Do I need to arrange for housing prior to arriving at my destination? Who do I contact for that? So let's ask the administrator. Who do I contact for housing and information, etc.?
You contact the university. You definitely need to have a place to stay when you arrive on campus. You might have a temporary place, particularly if you're a graduate student, but at the undergraduate level, you should contact the university. You should make sure that you have housing set up in the dormitory before you arrive.
And for that, do you go through your international student advisor?
Correct. Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. Or you can go to them, and then they will send you to the housing office or whatever whatever that university has.
But it's good to have all those things arranged before you
You
come.
should have it all arranged, yeah.
Lihui, what was your experience before you came here?
Yeah, so for undergrads, I definitely received emails over the summer about housing. So I just like check the email. They'll have instructions on also here's our housing page. How should you apply for housing and all the instructions. So I just applied housing that way. And then I think most schools, like freshmen, are required to live on campus.
Okay.
So you just like go through the whole school housing process, and then hopefully you'll get the place you want, but if not, it will still be like good to live on campus.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. That's good to know. What about off-campus housing? Is that recommended, and how do I arrange for that? I think this question basically goes back to housing again, because there may be some universities that may allow for undergrads to live off-campus, and they may not have to live on campus. Maybe a little liberal arts college that doesn't have on-campus housing, or maybe the rules just say that hey, you can live off campus. So how do they go about that, Adina?
So if you have family in town, you can live with your family. I don't recommend necessarily freshmen living off campus unless that's the only option for them. I know that for our students, I work with graduate students, so they're a little bit older, and so I'll put someone from Shenzhen in touch with a student from Shenzhen. Like I'll just put them in touch together, and then they'll email and sort of help each other out. We also have a office of off-campus housing, which gives students resources so that they can look for off-campus housing while they're abroad.
Okay. Lihui, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you have friends who have lived off campus?
Yeah, so like personally, I live on campus for the past 3 years.
Okay.
And my fourth year, my senior, I'm living off campus right now. And then what I did is just like, since I'm on campus already, so I'm familiar with this like environment. So I just go to different apartments and talk to their leasing office, and then just throw out details from that. And now I'm living off campus, so.
Another option is probably, Adina, you may be able to answer this, is to contact the student groups directly,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Because there may be, a student group from X number of particular countries.
Yep.
Could be from China or India or Japan or, or Turkey or wherever, right?
And there's always someone graduating, so when someone graduates, there becomes, there's a room that gets empty.
Right.
So if you've got three men from India living together and one's graduating, that's a perfect opportunity for someone new to come in and move in. So those are always good options.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Let's go to our next question. A online viewer asks, should I contact anyone to let them know prior to my arrival at my destination? Who is the first person to contact when I get to campus? I think this is a very, very important question. Adina, do you want to start? And then Lihui, you can chime in about your experience.
Yeah. So I think some of the smaller colleges do really well. They pick students up from the airport. They take them to their dorms. A lot of the larger universities, like where I work, that's just not possible because we have so many students.
Okay.
So students don't have to let us know when they're coming in, but as soon as they get to campus, they have to check in with our International Services Office.
Right.
And when they check in with the International Services Office, our office then lets the federal government know that the student is here and they're in good standing and those types of things. So it's critical as soon as you get to campus that you're formally checking in with your International Services Office.
And that would be, again, the International Student Advisor.
Correct.
And that International Student Advisors are the go-to people.
Yeah.
The first point of contact to a
Yes.
large extent, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Lihui, when you came in, what was your modus operandi? I mean, how did you go about meeting with who was your first contact?
I completely agree with what Adina said. Like the first thing when I got on campus, I didn't let anyone at GW know that I'm coming here. But the moment I got here, I literally just walked to ISO office, the International Students International Students Office, and then let my advisor or anyone working there know that I'm here. So like, the U.S. government would know that I'm here.
Right.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is you have to let someone know that you're coming, and contact the International Admissions Office or Student Advisor, so that it makes your life easier. Correct?
Yeah, and just a little tip. Let your parents know when you arrive. Every year we get a call from a panicking parent saying, I don't know if my child's arrived, and they've always arrived and they're always fine. So make sure that when you arrive that you let people know that you're here.
And that's
safely.
important. Let your parents know. Keep them informed.
Yeah.
because parents will always be parents, and they'll always be concerned about the well-being of their children. Anyway, let's go to our next question. Thanks again for all those great questions. Keep sending them in using the chat or on Twitter using the hashtag #StudyInTheUSA. Let's go back to Beijing now for a couple of more questions. Beijing, do you have a question for us?
Number 3.
你好，我想问一下，学生入境可以带多少现金呢？谢谢。
Her question was, how much cash can an international student bring to the United States?
Great. Thank you for that great question. I think the question was, how much cash can an international student bring to the United States? But let me take this a little further. I think the question could be could be in this particular vein, which how much funds should they have? I mean, what kind of funding should they bring with them when a student comes to the U.S.? But again, I'm assuming it depends on the place that you're going to, the university that you're going to. If you're in New York City, it's going to be much more expensive than a small little town in, say, Iowa or Illinois. So, I mean, and if they bring cash, should they sort of bring it in traveler's checks or credit cards? I'm sure all of that sort of comes under this particular question. Adina, do you want to start, and then Lihui, you can chime in?
Sure. If you have a bank card that works in America, that's probably the safest way, so that you can bring it from China or wherever you're coming from and just take out cash here. Otherwise, I would recommend traveler's checks and not bring thousands of dollars in cash because it's just too easy to lose.
Okay. And it's good to have some sort of backup in case you run into any issues or.
Yeah, I mean, you want to bring a little bit of cash with you, but I don't think you have to bring thousands of dollars in cash with you, I think. But you want to make sure that you have enough to travel and get settled.
So the question about how much may be a difficult thing to answer.
And it's also sort of where are you living. If you're living in a dorm, you don't need to buy furniture, right? If you're living in an apartment, maybe you have to buy furniture. You have to stock a kitchen. So I think it's very situational for each student.
Okay. And then the first thing, it's good to start a bank account as soon as you get to campus.
Correct. That's critical. Starting the bank account, it should be one of the first things that you do. Students usually check in, call their parents, deal with a cell phone, and then get a bank account. Okay. And your international advisor, your international student services office, they should give you instructions on how to go about opening a bank account.
Okay. That's good to know.
Critical.
Lihui, would you like to chime in on that?
Yeah, so I brought some cash with me when I first arrived in US, and then I just set up a bank account right after. So I had a debit card, and I just saved all my cash to the bank account, so I don't have to carry cash with me, but I still have enough cash that I can spend on. And definitely, I'm using my parents' credit card, so I just swipe it here, and then they just pay in China. But I try not to, so I try to use my own money before I use theirs. So I would say have some cash, left some over just for emergency, and have a bank account here, and then if it's a large amount of money, I sometimes just swipe my parents' card, but that rarely happens.
So the answer would be prudent. But Adina, going back to that, if a student wants to know approximately how much money he or she should bring, can the school suggest to them how much they need to bring with them in person?
Yeah, in fact, as part of the visa process, part of that is we have living expenses, a line for living expenses. Okay. And so that should be a good sort of round number that they can be looking at.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's great. Beijing, do you have another question for us?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay. My question is, if the student gets sick, should student go to the on-campus clinic or go to the hospital directly?
Excellent. I think that's a very important question, Adina. Because students, everyone falls ill at some point. If a student comes in, if he or she falls ill, the question was, what does he or she do? Does he or she go to the university medical services, or do they go to a hospital?
Right. I think it's important if it's an emergency, you need to go into an emergency room. So if you've broken an arm, if you have a high fever, those types of things, anything that you would normally go to an emergency room for, you shouldn't hesitate. You should go to an emergency room. If you have a sore throat, if you're not just generally not feeling well, then you can go to the clinic. The emergency room will be expensive, but that's critical that you go to the emergency room. The clinic on campus, they have physicians there who will help you with sort of your basic problems.
Which actually leads me to a second part of that question is that do they get medical insurance as soon as they come to the United States, to campus? Because I think medical insurance is a very, very important factor to consider when you come as a student to the United States.
Right. So we don't have sort of a socialized medicine system here like a lot of countries do. Most universities are going to require students to carry insurance, and either you can carry insurance from home, and then you have to show proof that you have that insurance, or there's an insurance policy that you can buy here on campus, and then you go to the doctor and you pay what we call a copay, which is like $25 to see a doctor or something.
Okay. And there is a particular number that if there's a total emergency, so suppose you break your arm and in the middle of the night, you can call 911.
Yeah, you can call, and with any sort of emergency, whether it's a medical emergency or any other emergency, you call 911 from a phone, and somebody will come and help you.
Lihui, have you gone through any experience where any of your peers or any of your friends have gone through some medical emergency that you can share with us?
Oh yeah, so personally, I've never had the need to go to hospitals or like emergency, knock on wood, that never happens. But so I would just personally, for the student insurance, GW provides a student insurance for international students, so I just sign up for that and pays for that every year. And then for so for hospitals and stuff, my roommate freshman year, she got really sick one day, so I took her to the hospital, and then that was the emergency because she was really sick. Okay. And then my other friends, when they get cold, they would just go to student health on campus, which is closer and then cheaper. So.
Okay, that's good to know. We will come back to Beijing later in the program, but now let's go to some of your online questions. An online viewer, Laura, asks, she's participating in the Benjamin Franklin Transatlantic Fellows Summer Institute program in the United States. She has a question about a form she must fill out to receive payment as a fellow. Do international students need to have a social security number in order to receive payment for work or fellowships? And more generally, do you recommend international students apply for a social security number, and how do they go about doing this? Adina, I think this basically, making this question sort of shorter, I think the bottom line is international students, do they need to apply for social security numbers? Do they have social security numbers, and how does that work for them?
Sure. You don't have to have a social security number. You do have to have a social security number if you're going to work and get paid for that work. Usually you have to secure a job first, and then you take your letter for the job and you take that to your international services office, and then they will instruct you how to go about getting a social security number. If you're not working, you don't need to worry about a social security number.
So does this mean they need some sort of social security number even if they work on campus, or they do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So even an on-campus job, we give the students a letter and they go get the social security number. And it will delay your hire. It will delay your hire maybe for 10 days.
Okay.
But we can't hire anybody without it. So.
I see.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Let's go to our next online question. Another question is, what should I pack? Can I get everything I need in the United States? Lihui, this question goes directly to you.
Okay.
What did you pack, and did you find everything that you needed, what you were looking for in the United States?
Yeah, okay, so since I'm not very experienced freshman year, I literally packed everything with me coming from China to USA. But then after I got here, I just realized I can pretty much get everything here. So that was kind of unnecessary. But I would say pack as much as you can. And then if you left over something, you can just always buy things here. Personally, my pillow is really important for me because I like to sleep with my own pillow. So I just packed my pillow, but then you can pretty much get everything here. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's important to pack, if you have a pillow that's important to you,
Yeah.
pack a pillow or a blanket.
Exactly.
Great, that's good to know. These are very sort of practical things that one should consider. Another question is, what are some good tips or resources that will help me adjust to American culture? I think this question could go to both of you. Would you like to start first, or do you want to start first? Adina, do you want to sort of take this question?
I can speak as an American.
Okay. All right. As an American,
Yeah.
what do you think international students can do to sort of become more in sync with American culture?
Sure, I can say that one of the things is be patient and be willing to talk about yourself. Most Americans don't travel outside of the United States, and so when they meet someone who's not from America, there's typically lots of questions because we're very curious. And you shouldn't be intimidated by that. You should just be willing to answer those questions. That means you sort of have to be an ambassador for your country in a way, and so you have to be prepared to do that. I think it's important that to know that Americans value both privacy and personal space.
Okay.
And I think you can speak to that a little bit. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's just like, I feel like keeping an open mind is important, and especially for personal space. Like freshman year, I was living with 2 Americans and then 1 Korean, and then I became really good friends with one of the Americans, and then no matter how close we are, she'll just say like, can you like leave me alone right now, because I just don't want to talk to anyone. At first I was just like, why? Because in China we always hang out with each other all the time, and I just didn't realize she really needs her personal space and personal time. So that I get used to it, and now I kind of really need my personal time and personal space sometimes too. So it's just like, whenever I go back to China, I'm waiting for the customs, and then when people stand really close to me, I get really frustrated. I was like, can you like give I need my own space. Like, don't stand that close to me.
So I think what you're basically saying is that it's a great experience. It makes you into a very well-rounded person. You understand different cultures, different ethnicities, and go out and have a good time. Not just sit in your classroom and study, but also go about and explore all these different places. Correct?
Yeah.
All right, that's good to know. Let's go to our next question. An online viewer asks, is it okay if I buy my health insurance from my home country rather than buying it from the United States of America? Which is more preferable? I think this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Adina. Should they sort of buy insurance from their home country, or should they come here and get it?
I think it's personal preference.
It's personal, okay.
Yeah, as long the university should give the students the criteria, what should be covered.
Okay.
And it's medication, emergency care, and as long as it's covered, then it doesn't really matter to us. The one thing to think about is if it's in your home country and you do need to submit claims, usually you have to prepay. So you have to pay here in America if you have insurance from your home country, and then you have to wait to be reimbursed from your provider in your home country. So that might be a factor, but.
That's good to know. Lihui, when you came in, did you have carry insurance, or did you get your insurance when you came here?
I just got insurance here when school offered me insurance. I was like, okay, I'll get it. So I'm still using the U.S. insurance. I got it from here.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what I did. When I came in as an international student myself, I got my insurance at the university when I landed in the United States. Let's go to our next online question. The question is, will a university, a college, help a student to open a bank account in the United States? Do I need to open one? Again, it's going back to the funding issue. Do they, an international student, does the International Student Services offer to help you open a bank account? Number one, and number two, is it necessary to open a bank account?
I don't. The International Services Office won't help. Like, they won't take you to a bank, but usually there are instructions written up about what you do. You could also go with a current international student, and they'll help you. I don't know how someone lives in America without a bank account. I know people do it, but I don't know how, because we're just so used to swiping our card, even to buy a can of Coke. It's just part of our culture. So I guess it's possible, but it's not so convenient.
So it's practical to have one.
Very
Lihui,
practical.
I mean, did you open up a bank account as soon as you came here, or did you wait for a while?
Oh, as Adina said earlier, I came here, I went to ISO, I got my phone, and I opened up my bank account. That's like the 3 steps I did when I got here. Yeah, so I would recommend, like as Adina said, like the office wouldn't like walk you to bank account, but then
Right.
they will walk you to the bank, but they will have a list of things, and I got that list from the office, and I just like follow the list and what to do, like what bank to choose, and like suggestions like that. And then because I also had that family friend here, like she walked me to the bank too, so like that was really easy for me.
Yeah. If you're nervous about the English, particularly talking to the bank, it is really helpful to have someone go with you. You can have another student go with you. So.
And I think banks, generally are extremely helpful because you're opening up an account.
Absolutely.
They're getting your money, right?
Yeah.
Let's go back to our viewing audience in Beijing for a couple of more questions. Beijing, do you have a question for us?
Yes, we do.
My question is, can students take Chinese medicine to the US? And how much can students carry?
I think the question is going back to medicine. Can a student from China who's coming in, can he or she bring Chinese medicine with him or her to the United States? And if yes, then how much can they carry? I guess this goes into the realm of how much you can bring in, U.S. customs laws, etc. Adina, have you had any experiences where people have done this?
Yeah, I think you just need to be careful about volume. You don't want to make the customs think you're trying to resell it.
Okay.
So if you're just bringing enough for personal use, that should be fine.
Okay.
If you're bringing a whole suitcase full of something, that might be an issue. The other thing as far as Chinese medicine goes is if you're coming to a major metropolitan area, there's always going to be a Chinese market, and there's always going to be people who practice Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
And so that's very common here, so you might not necessarily need to bring enough for 4 years.
So you can actually get it here if required.
Yeah.
Lihui, did you bring any Chinese medicine with you? And if so, how and how much? And if you want to chime in.
Yeah, I brought Chinese medicine with me like when I came here, and then it's about like this big, like this box with all the necessary medicines in it. And then it was pretty helpful. And then, as I said, like I don't usually get sick, so I don't really need the medicine.
Okay.
But like it's just like it makes me feel secure about myself, just in case anything were to happen. Like I still have that box of medicine, but it's just literally this much, and it was in my suitcase. So.
And it's always it's good to declare it at customs
Absolutely.
when you come in, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Beijing, do you have another question for us?
Yes. Yes, sir. I got a question about housing again. What if student doesn't get along well with roommate? What should they do, and who should they talk to? Thanks.
Great. I think that's a wonderful question, and it's a very, very practical question. Adina, let me start off with you as an administrator. If a student, does not get along with his or her roommate. Now, we can go into two different aspects. One is undergrad, someone staying on campus. You could probably answer that as well.
Yeah.
And someone staying off campus. Have you seen that in your experience?
Sure. The on-campus is easier. All of our dormitories have what are called RAs, or resident assistants, and they're paid usually upperclassmen, so young men or women who are juniors or seniors, and they're going to help you with roommate issues if you're arguing or fighting or whatever. And if that can't be worked out, then we can rearrange that situation and we can help you find a new roommate.
Yeah.
As for off-campus, it's a little bit more difficult, particularly if you're signing a lease with somebody. Now you're sort of locked into that apartment or that house with somebody for 6 months or 9 months or 12 months. And so you have to sort of learn to work it out, or somebody lets go of their lease.
Okay.
So it's harder.
Lihui, I'm sure you've seen this in your 3 years, and you may have had colleagues or peers or friends who have had this issue. What is your advice?
Yeah.
to the online viewers?
Yeah, because I can talk about from undergrad's perspective, I would definitely say resident assistants would be a great role for there to help you. Freshman year, I had conflict with my roommate, and I guess we weren't just communicating as well, and then we don't really know how to communicate since we're from different cultures. So I just brought this to my own RA and was like, hey, my RA, can you help me with this problem? And then last year, I was an RA myself, and I was helping with I was living with freshmen. So some of my kids are really nice, but then one room has always this major conflict because the two girls, they just can't communicate well with each other. So my role was just to sit there, facilitate the conversation, let them communicate right in front of me. So just in case conflicts were to happen, I can be there and try to mediate the conflicts. And then if that's not happening, RAs can escalate it up to my boss, so the school will come in and then help with the problem. So just like you said, if it's a severe roommate problem, we can reassign the roommates. And if not, most of the time the roommates will just talk things out themselves, because it's just more about communicating. And then once there's an RA there for you, it's more easily that you can just communicate.
So it's all about communication. But I think, Adina, it's, just from a practical perspective, I think it's extremely important that, you find a roommate who is, you can sort of, you can work with, you get along with. Otherwise, it can affect your personal life, can affect your academic life.
Yeah.
And the main reason international students you're here is to study.
Right.
And if it affects your grades, then it's not a good thing.
Correct.
So it's good to, be careful about, whom you choose as a roommate and et cetera, right?
Right. Correct.
Great questions, Beijing. I think we have time for a few more questions from our online viewers. One of the questions is, how can a student obtain a US driver's license? And do you recommend this? Is it easy to get a car? Any of you can take this question, because this is a question about funding. If you have money to buy a car, and number one. Number two is it easy to get a US license, and how does one go about that?
I don't know anything about this. Sorry.
You've never had a car?
Yeah, I don't drive. I still need to learn how to drive. So
you're in Washington, D.C. You have the metro.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are places, Adina, like smaller towns, where you actually need a car.
Yeah.
And to even get groceries, you may need a car.
And
so what does that person do?
That's something that you should factor in, both to your costs and sort of standard of living. When you're looking at universities. So am I going to need a car? Do I need a car to go down and buy a gallon of milk?
Okay.
And so to get a driver's license, it's a little complicated. And again, you should check with your university. They should give you instructions on how to do it. If you have a driver's license in your home country, sometimes that can help, but you still have to take tests here. You have to take a driving test and a written test. And it's a bit of a process. I think it's a valuable process, even if you're living in a city, and even if you don't have a car. People like to go on road trips. People like to, we have car share services here, so people like to get into a car and go out to the suburbs, to a Chinese supermarket, that sort of thing. And so even if you don't need to buy a car, I think it's really helpful for you to have a license eventually at some point.
I see. And there are cases where, going back to roommates, 2 or 3 roommates get together and buy a car together.
Yeah.
Have you seen that in your experience?
We have a group of students from Germany who rotate every year, and they pass the car down to the next group every year. So the car is probably 15 years old by now, and it's just enough to get them around campus. But
and that shows the camaraderie between international students, and that's one of the wonderful things about the learning experience. Going back to the learning experience, another question is: are there any study materials, books, I should bring to the United States? Lihui, did you bring any books or materials when you came in as a student?
I personally didn't, but I would recommend do, because textbooks here are really expensive.
Okay.
They're like $200 per book, which is really pricey compared to the price I'm used to in China. So I would just suggest, if you know the classes you are taking for sure and you know the textbooks for sure, I would just go to Taobao and then see if they have cheaper books there. And then if not, you can always go to Amazon. They have international editions. It's usually cheaper than the American edition.
Okay.
It's the same material, it's just different covers, but it's way cheaper. So
that's good to know. Let's go to our next online question. Donette An online viewer asks, I live in Canada and I plan to bring some furniture with me. What forms or information do I need when crossing the border? Again, this goes back to the customs question.
Yeah.
If someone is living in Canada, they want to bring furniture or other equipment, what do they do?
First, you need to declare it. And
Yep.
again, I think it's about volume. I'm not a border control officer,
Right.
but if I saw someone coming in with 20 sofas, that might be really suspicious. If I saw someone coming in with a sofa and a chair and a table, then they're just bringing furniture across the border, and I don't think it's a problem.
Okay, and I think they can also go into the website dhs.gov
Yes.
To check what the rules and regulations are. Let's go to our next question. What kind of emergency contact information do I need to bring? And I think this is extremely important, this particular question. What, I'm traveling, my parents are concerned about me, if something happens, if I'm stuck somewhere, or if I get hurt, do I need an emergency contact? Adina, and then Lihui, you can sort of chime in whether you had any, any sort of emergency contact listed.
Yeah.
Please go on.
So the university, we know, as part of the application process, we know who to contact and who their parents are.
Yep.
So if it's any sort of emergency like that, then we can certainly get a hold of somebody. I do think you need to have an emergency contact that's here, a friend, a roommate, and that way if something happens, somebody knows where you are. You could also carry a card with an emergency contact in your wallet, so that if something happens, when someone can get a hold of someone local for you, so they know
So I
where
mean,
you are.
what if I don't have anyone local? Suppose I come in, I'm coming in for the first time as an international student. I don't know anyone here. All I know is that this is a school I'm going to. I know the name of I know who the international students advisor is. Then what do I do? Do I just list the international student advisor?
I would initially. I would
Okay.
list that person and list the university,
Okay.
and then once you get here and get settled and have some friends, then you can change that.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Lihui, did you have emergency contact listed?
Yeah, so for personal experience, I would definitely put my parents as the first point of contact. But then since I know they don't speak English, and then it might be difficult for schools to communicate with them if anything were to happen to me. So I also list my family friend who's Chinese, but she goes to school here. So I think after contacting my parents, school can contact my family friend. So she can translate for school in between school and my parents.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
And
Thank you.
can I just add one
Yeah,
thing to
please.
that? Anytime, if there's any sort of emergency, the universities are going to work closely with the embassies in country. So if there is our language barriers, those kinds of things,
Right.
we sort of overcome that with our in-country folks who are our contacts.
So the bottom line is parents can be rest assured
Absolutely.
that universities and colleges in the United States will work with them. If there's an issue, they will get in
Correct.
touch and they will help them out.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good to know. Let's go to our next online question. Is it necessary to confirm all flights arrangements before students leave their country to come to the United States? Lihui, you can probably answer this question. Did you get everything confirmed before, in terms of flights, and did you let the university know, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I would recommend confirming your flights, international, domestic flights, rather than international flights, because I feel like international flights, they are more likely to be confirmed, and then if there are any changes, they will let you know. But then for domestic flights, I would confirm that, because I remember 2 winters ago, I was flying from my home city to Beijing, and then from Beijing to DC. And then I know from Beijing to DC that one is for sure, but then the flight from my home city to Beijing that morning was canceled. So I was glad I tried to confirm it the night before, so I didn't miss my flight. So I just took a train instead to Beijing. So I feel confirming flights would definitely be good, but it's not necessary, if
Okay,
that makes sense.
and it's very important to have all those things
Yeah.
lined up before you get here.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Beijing one last time before closing. Beijing, do you have a question for us? Beijing, do you have another question for us?
Anyone brave want to ask another question? Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
As a student in the campus, if I have problems with my course and if I have, I would like to know if I have the chance to get to know the situation before it is too late.
So I think the question is, the student has a problem with her classes or his classes. Could be academic, or they don't like the class, they want to change the class. Is there a solution? I mean, what do they do, Lihui?
Yeah.
You can start, and then Adina, you can sort of chime in as well.
Yeah, if you don't like the classes, I would suggest you to talk to the professors or TA. Just tell them directly why do you like the class, and then how can you change it. If it's just like, if the problem is just like, oh, I just don't really understand, or I just don't like this class, you can always talk to your academic advisor.
Okay.
Academic advisors are there to help you with your classes and your transcripts and everything. So if you want to drop a class or you want to add another class, just always go to academic advisors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's good to know that that you have to be in touch with the academic advisor.
Yeah.
Adina, what's your take on that?
I think having a good program of study, working with your academic advisor is very important. Working with the professor is important. Knowing that there's an add drop period, and it's usually 2 weeks, depending on the university. And so you don't want to decide 6 weeks into a class that you don't want to take the class. You really want to decide pretty early that you don't want to take the class. Because there's financial penalties and all sorts of things.
Right, financial penalties plus your grade, you can get an incomplete,
Correct,
et cetera.
yeah.
So it's very important to figure out within the first 2 weeks or so, depending on your school, of course, what the criteria is to whether you want to drop the class, you want to change the class. But again, keep in touch with your academic advisor and talk to the professors. Professors are very friendly and approachable, correct, Lihui?
Yeah, they're there to help you. And then, so just always feel free to ask the professors. If you're not comfortable talking to your professors, you might want to talk to your teaching assistants, or there are any in the class. So, yeah.
I think we may have another time for another question from Beijing. Beijing, do you have a question for us?
One more question from Beijing. One more. Krishna, I think we're all shy here.
Oh, that's fine. That's
questions.
fine. We are pretty much running out of time. Thank you so much again for your participation and those great questions. We have run out of time. Unfortunately, I would like to thank our guests in the studio, Lihui and Adina. Thank you so much. It's been a delight, a pleasure, a privilege having you here for this extremely productive chat. And thanks to those who joined us from Beijing, China. Beijing, thank you again. Thank you so much. Thanks to Patrick in the chat space for his help with this program as well. And lastly, a big thank you to our online viewers from around the globe who participated in this chat and submitted those great questions. This program would not be possible without your participation and fine input. So thank you so much. Although this chat is over, you can continue to participate in our discussion on Twitter by using the hashtag #StudyInTheUSA. And don't forget to visit educationusa.state.gov for more general information on studying in the USA. Visit the center, meet with the advisor, talk to them. They're a great source of information. Tune into our next session on the 18th of June for our international students chat, where you will hear from a panel of international students like you who will be talking about their personal experiences and answering all of your online questions. Thank you again, and goodbye.